So in sideboarding, I think this is the first time that I cut a cultivate for a call to mind. Simply because I figured that that second cultivate, this game was pretty terrible, and it would have been nice to be able to call to mind my Doomblade. So I'm on the play again. Obviously, this first hand is pretty terrible. 7 mana. I draw into this. I figure it's good enough. It'll at least, allow me to be somewhat tempo-y, or not tempo-y, somewhat. It'll let me, not die in the early game. Play an island first, simply so that I'll have cancel. Draw another island, play an island, pass turn. I think about playing other colors of land briefly, but I decide to give him, just the sort of impression that I'm color screwed, or at least that's the message I hope I'm sending at this point. I think a lot about these sort of little things, but I often miss the larger picture and miss the larger strategy, as evidenced by my Harbor Serpent non-play last game. I think is a good example of that. I was in must find answer mode when I probably should have seen Harbor Serpent and been like, oh, I can race now. So hopefully I'm editing this out, but I'm actually terrible with clock management on Moto, and it will come back to haunt me next round. So he plays Stormfront Pegasus, which is going to get in for quite a bit. I play a Swamp just so that I have Doomblade up, and I now have Cancel Mana up, so I'm like, yeah, everything's going according to plan except for that Stormfront Pegasus, which is going to get in for like 6 damage. He Pegasuses. What does he drop here? A Rock Egg, which it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to cancel that because it's terrible. Of course, it's not actually terrible here because it's going to stop my Spined Worm once I finally get that on the board, but I let it go because I can't bring myself to cancel a Rock Egg. So I draw Cloud Elemental. I figure he's at 3, so he's 2 mana away from Serra and 1 mana away, or infinite mana away from Angelic Arbiter, which are the 2 cards that I've seen that I want to cancel. So I go ahead and run out the Cloud Elemental, plus it'll, block the Stormfront Pegasus. His turn comes up. He has the 4C as per usual. This may be the one time, or maybe it was last game, where he didn't bottom, top. So at this point, my strategy is, just get in with Cloud Elemental enough and hope I draw better things. Which he's obviously, better than, because, or better at doing than I am, because he has 3 real card draw spells, whereas I have the Ball and the 1/4C and Owl. So he doesn't swing in, because that would be stupid, and passes the turn. I assume right here he was getting his pizza. So I draw a Juggernaut. I believe I run out the Spined Worm here, as Juggernaut is pretty bad with a Rock Egg on the other side of the table, and me without a an Ether Adept in my hand. Spined Worm can at least sit there. Juggernaut will crack his Rock Egg next turn. So I believe I make some misplays coming up, but I can't remember exactly what it is. I just remember feeling stupid. This is Sarah. This is Sarah. So my next turn is, of course, Doomblade Sarah. Perhaps I probably should have swung in with the Spined Worm and seen if I could have gotten the trade. Seems very unlikely, but no, it's actually terrible. So here I'm debating about what I'm going to do here. Trying to figure out whether I, send with both, crack the guy, and just hope to race on the ground now that I've gotten rid of his other guy. Plus, that makes me have less problems to the Day of Judgment because his Rock Egg won't have a bird afterwards. But I just swing in with the Cloud Elemental, play the Forest. I think about playing Juggernaut. I do play Juggernaut. He has the Vandal again, making my Juggernaut terrible. And ruining my swarm around his Rock Egg plan. So we're back on the Flyers plan, which he has better Flyers than I do, so no es bueno. I draw the Ether Adept, so I decide to swing in with both, just so that I can crack the Rock Egg and then bounce the bird with Adept. It's possible that I probably should have waited a turn to do this, or waited a turn at least to attack in, because he's at 7 mana, and I figure that one of the cards in his hand is, or he's going to be at 7 mana next turn. I figure that one of the cards in his hand is Angelic Arbiter. So I'm taking 3 points here. The upside of this play is that I'll hopefully be able to get in 5 damage sooner. He considers swinging it with everything. He leaves the Manic Vandal back to block. And he probably sniffs out my counter magic here, because he sort of sits and thinks for a little bit and then doesn't play Angelic Arbiter. Instead, he runs out Auguriel, if memory serves. No. Tapping more mana. Harbor Servant, which is, just as terrible for me, so I cancel it. Gee, that Harbor Serpent would have been real good last game for you, wouldn't it? So I draw the 4C. I decide to swing in with my guys, and then I'll 4C into hopefully a land, and then play the Ether Adept off that. So I have Giant Spider, Air Servant, Island, and Forest. I put the Forest on the bottom. Giant Spider to the bottom, and the other two on top. Adept, bounce the bird, pass. I'm feeling pretty good at this point, because, I haven't seen Angelic Arbiter. My board is looking pretty good. Then he clones my Spined Worm, which slows me down quite a bit. I probably should have swung in with my Spined Worm this next turn, but I think I was too cowardly to do that. Simply to at least offer the trade. So he swings in with Stormfront Pegasus. I draw a Fantastic Forest, and am a coward and just swing in with Cloud Elemental, even though I am losing this race. For some reason, I decide to still be offensive. Probably because, there's Air Servant, so I figure it'll live, hopefully, maybe. I mean, I know he has both Outrage and Lightning Bolt, and he's left up Outrage mana. So, that makes the relying on an Air Servant a terrible plan, especially because he, has the Outrage. He's drawn half his deck. I probably should have expected him to have either Bolt or Outrage at this point, but I didn't for some reason. So I go to 3 here. Things are very bleak. And he plays Angelic Arbiter, making things bleaker. We are now in the end game. I rip Ice Cage. This is a desperation play at best. He comments on my excellent ripping skills. I retort, play the Armored Ascension. Long story short, he foresees here, finds the Lightning Bolt, declines to bolt me, saying that he's showing off. Bolts his Arbiter, gets the cage off the Arbiter, swings in. I have to chump the Arbiter. Then, I don't draw a card that reads I win the game. So I lose. He shows off these other things to the people who are watching his replays. So, what terrible plays did I do here, and what terrible things in this match that I should probably learn from? So, I should have stopped in Game 2 and thought a little bit more about what I was planning to do once the Arbiter came on the board. I was in full-on... I decided to put myself in full-on find an answer mode instead of realizing that I'd drawn Harbor Serpent and that I could probably, I would stand a chance of racing. Especially because I could draw chump blockers. Also, this third game, I definitely think I misidentified my role. I should have kept my Cloud Elemental back to halt the Stormfront Pegasus beats a lot sooner. Additionally, I probably should have sideboarded better, and I also should have played that Cultivate in Game 2 just to get the lands out of my deck, and I should pay more attention to how I tap my mana so that I can actually cast things when they're relevant instead of having them in my hand for the entirety of the game. I realize this was a likely terrible first round commentary. Hopefully I'll get better as I go along. So thanks for listening to this part, if you did, and I'll be working on round 2 after this.